Thank you for joining us this afternoon. My name is Gregor Patch. We also have Nicole Beck, Maggie Mathias, and Michelle Tanner on from Second Nature. I believe most of you were in the workshop that we held at the end of last year. I think we have a few new folks on the line here today, and also some staff from the Water Board are on the call as well. All right, so we're going to get started here and go through a user workflow for the module. We want to show you how you might typically interact with the module. We're going to try to keep this presentation about a half hour or so, trying to cruise through it and leave some time for questions and discussions at the end. We're going to be recording this webinar so you can re-listen to it. Currently, I believe I have all of you muted right now. If any questions come up, either write those down and save them for the end, or you can put them into the chat window. We're going to definitely save some time at the end to go through questions and have a little bit of discussion and try to answer all the questions you write down the best we can before we're done today. Okay, so our goal and objectives for the construction module. Our goal is really to improve the data management and workflow efficiency of your construction site runoff control program. And how we're going to do that is by using 2Nform to provide a web-based location so you can track and catalog all the relevant information for planned, active, and completed construction projects. We want to make field inspections a lot easier and more efficient for you, get rid of the need to have paper checklists out in the field and then have to come back in the field and consolidate and download all that data and photographs and et cetera and put them on your computer or whatnot. We want to really simplify that process. And then we want to improve the general workflow of your program with smart dashboards, to-do lists, maps, have everything really integrated and make this something you can kind of interact with on a daily basis. Finally, we want to simplify annual reporting by auto-summarizing all of this data so that you can have a good summary of all your program's activities. That information can then be made read-only, regulator access, as we're doing with other modules with 2Nform. Okay, I'm going to switch here. So we received a lot of feedback from our existing clients, other interested MS4s, that folks really wanted a better way to manage construction projects and inspections. And so as part of our roadmap here, where we really want to cover all the bases for everything you would possibly need for MS4 program management needs. So as many of you know, construction site runoff control is a minimum control measure in all MS4 permits. So we're really excited to have this design finalized and be able to show it to you today. What I have right here on the screen is a program called Envision. So this is something we use to help design the layout and feel of what the program is going to look and feel like. This is not finished software at this point. And this is made for presentation purposes, just so you know. So I'm going to come in here and click on the construction module. So we start here with a map of all of our inventoried construction projects. I want to point out some things up here on the banner. This should look really familiar to you guys, but for every module that we have within 2Nform, we have a banner similar to this, where you can look at your data. So this is your data management system for all your projects. You also have a to-do list, which helps inform what you're going to do next with respect to those projects. And then we have settings. So we're going to go through these different drop downs here with construction. So starting with data, or data management. Obviously everything we're doing in 2Nform, we want to have it spatially based so you can see where all your projects are. Similar to any GIS, we have layers that can be turned on and off. You can look at all your projects. What you're seeing here is the projects represented as these triangles, different colors. White means planned. Gray means they're an active project, but they haven't been inspected. You can have projects that are doing well, from a construction standpoint, those are going to show up green. You can have projects that are not doing well and failing. Those show up red. And then we have completed projects. In addition, sometimes there's enforcement actions which need to be issued. You can see that here with a red triangle around it. Some of these projects are priority projects, so they'll have a P associated with it. And then we've got a little blue icon, which you're going to see in all of our modules moving forward, that kind of tells you an inspection is due. It's time to go do something with that asset. Over here on the left, similar again to what's in throughout our platform, we have different ways to sort this data, view it, search it, different filters. So this is our data for all of our construction projects in a map view. We can also click on a list view, so we can see all of the projects that we have with a summary table of some critical information tied to those projects. You can then click on any one of these projects, get into further details, see the list of all the photos tied to it. You can see your inspection history. You can view and edit that inspection history. You can see your enforcement history. So this goes to every single project in there. Okay, now to-dos. That's the other drop down here. So this is where we really envision the user interacting with the program on sort of a daily basis, whether it's the program manager or the inspector, being able to come in and see what needs to get done, whether that's enforcement actions that need to be addressed or dealt with, or inspections that are due, or if you've got just more information that needs to get added to make the program work for certain projects. All that can be seen right here in a list view. Additionally, you can see the to-do items in a map view. So you can see where these projects are that need to go be inspected. We'll go into settings. So settings, settings are going to be something that you really deal with once. These are sort of universal to the module and specific to your city or county. So you can come into the settings and set these one time and then ideally forget about it. So under settings, we have general settings, project prioritization settings, and inspection settings. And I'm just going to go through these really quick. The general settings, which you see here, you can list out what sort of projects, what sort of permits and plans you want required and tied to these projects when they're inventoried. We've got low impact development, performance requirements, LID special circumstances. These should look familiar to you guys. This is information that you need for your post-construction requirements. So entering that information in now allows it to feed over into post-construction once the construction is completed. Prioritization. All MS4 permits want you to prioritize construction projects based on a variety of different factors. So these are different thresholds that you would set for your city, hopefully tied to your ordinance or whatnot. Things like proximity to an impaired water, proximity to receiving water, steep slopes, an area of disturbance. Any of these things these are all thresholds that would trip a project into being a prioritized project. Again, you put these in one time. Inspections, another big part of permits is setting inspection frequencies. So we have this broken up into wet and dry season inspection frequencies, and then you can set your wet and dry season here because that's going to be different for different regions. You can set the inspection frequencies for high priority and non-priority projects for both wet and dry. And then site scoring. When you go out and do inspections on the site, you're going to be asked, and I'm going to show you this in a second, you're going to be asked a series of questions on how those temporary BMPs are performing. These scores are going to be sort of default scores that we're going to have in here, but there's going to be the flexibility in the future to modify those as it works best for you guys. Those scores then get averaged across for each BMP over the entire site, and we set a threshold then based on that average if that site is passing or failing. So if you've got a low score, you've got a lot of issues, the site's passing, and vice versa. Again, this is all in the settings and selected one time. Okay. I'm going to back out and go back to our data page here, our map. So again, this is a list of all of our existing projects that we have throughout your city. So you're going to want to add new projects as new plans are submitted. You click on here. Again, this should look very similar to how you enter in a new BMP or a full capture system. Some of this information gets automatically populated based on where you select a spot. Pick a place on the map where that project's going to be. You select the appropriate or the relevant parcels and road segments. Get your total project area for that project. That starts the inventory process. Then with each project, you're entering in general information. You'll see in here we have red asterisks for elements of the inventory that are required in the permit. So that all goes in here. You enter in that information. For general information, contacts, this is where you'll put in your legally responsible party, also your contractor, email, address, phone numbers, so you don't have to look this information up when you're in the field. If that party or contractor has a record of non-compliance, that's a permit element as well. You can select that here, and if that's been selected in the past, it'll show up as yes. You can add other contacts as well, QSPs, QSDs, third-party inspectors, any other person you want to be able to reach tied with this project. Permits and plans, it's required that every project have either an erosion and sediment control plan or a stormwater pollution prevention plan. You have to have those issued in an approval date. You would enter that in here. You can upload the plan as well. Other permit types, if you're under an acre and you have a stormwater control plan, grading plans, anything else you want to add, you can add those plans and permits on here as well. Low impact development and BMPs. This again, as we mentioned, this is a place where you're going to start to enter in this information, which hopefully you're pulling directly from a plan set or a design report or something that got submitted with the project. You can enter this information in for all your post-construction requirements. And that information, then you don't have to re-enter that in again. When you go on to post-construction, that'll already be tied to this project. Are structural BMPs planned? Yes or no? Do you want to inventory those BMPs? So you can go ahead and inventory the stormwater BMPs right now. If you click yes, it's going to give you a pop-up window. You can say, all right, look at the plan, say, okay, we got a biofilter here, got something else going in here. These then are in the system. They show up now in your post-construction BMP to-do list as BMPs that are going to be due for inspection once this project is completed. And then finally, priority. We talked about that project prioritization. Based on the settings that you set and the information unique to this project, every project is going to give you a little pop-up window like this that's going to tell you whether those thresholds have been triggered or not. And you can look through this list and see how many are yes or no. Typically, I believe if any of these are yes, you're going to call it a high priority project. And so you would come over here, and we're letting you guys click yes or no that it's a high priority project. And if you have a different rationale or reason this says yes and you want this to say no, that information can all be added in here and documented accordingly. Okay, so now we are back out. Let's go to a to-do list. Okay, so say you come in here and you realize you've got an inspection that's overdue, and you're going to go out into the field and inspect this site. I'm going to switch us back over here to field inspections. So this is our mobile application built on the Survey 123 platform for mobile site inspections. For every inspection, you're going to have these categories: general information, weather, site discharges, temporary construction BMPs, structural post-construction BMPs, required site documents. We're going to calculate a site score. We're going to talk about enforcement actions and the ability to schedule up a follow-up inspection, and then the ability to do signatures for responsible party and the inspector right there in the field after this information has been after the site's been inspected. So general information, a lot of this information gets automatically populated based on the project after you've inventoried it. Essentially what you're going to do is come out, fill in the inspector name and the date and what type of inspection you're doing. So that's the general information there. Weather, you can come out and select what type of weather you're seeing. Again, the rainy season dates are pre-populated. We put those in the settings. So any weather information you want. At this point, you're going to have to enter this in manually, but I think in the future, we're going to look at tying this into available weather data and auto-populating this information as well. Site discharges, this is a single question, but it's an important one. This is ultimately seeing if all the temporary BMPs are working. So is there any evidence or reason to believe that illicit or untreated discharge has left the site? Yes or no. You need to describe that, take photos, etc. Then within the site, we've got temporary construction BMPs. These are broken into 5 categories of soil stabilization, sediment control, tracking and wind erosion control, non-stormwater management, and material and waste management. Within each one of these, you've got a series of temporary BMPs. This is replacing your checklist. You go through each one of these. The first time you'll have to decide if it's required or not on the project. Once it is a required BMP, you'll be asked a question of how it's performing, and you get 4 simple answers here: no issues, minor issues, significant, or if it's failing or absent or in the wrong location. And remember, back in the settings, there's some numbers under the hood here tied to how you're answering these. Notes, photos for everything, all done right here. And so you've got to work your way through all of those temporary BMPs. This is a full list of all the temporary BMPs that we have in here. We took this directly from Caltrans standards on construction site. We organized it a little bit. We referenced Salinas's construction checklist as well, but this is a very inclusive list that's referenced to Caltrans. Structural BMPs, again, these are the stormwater BMPs going in, making sure they're going in properly. If there's any issues, making sure they're being protected from construction activities and not filling in with sediment. Site documents, you got to have those on the site posted. The ENS plan or SWIP, if it needs updating, are the reports in there. Then based on those answers, this is going to get auto-calculated for you. You're going to see your current site score. And based on whatever threshold you've put in your settings, this can be, this looks like it's just shy of failing. If I think we had 0.8 in there. You can see your previous site score inspection. And then just some quick numbers on how many temporary BMPs were out there required, how many of those are really failing. So based on that information, you might decide, your inspector might decide it's time to issue an enforcement action. Some of these things are not getting resolved, or the site's in really bad condition. So you'll click yes, type down some information, and then that's going to feed the to-do list back at the office that an enforcement action is required. So then finally, you'll schedule a follow-up inspection. Every project's going to have a routine inspection frequency tied to it that you set in the settings, but if you schedule a follow-up inspection, that'll trump that frequency. So if you're out there and there's a problem and you need to go out and inspect it in a few days, you would set that right here. And then finally, signatures. You can sign name, date for representative inspector. Okay, just gonna pause for a second here and look at the question. Can the module be tied to weather data from NOAA for pre and post rain event monitoring? Yes, I believe that is what we're going to try to do in the future. Can these contacts be uploaded in bulk from a spreadsheet? Yes. We are entering LID performance requirements when those are entered in parcel RAM module. So you will not need to, if you enter in the LID performance requirements in here, you will not have to enter them in the parcel module. Those will already be pre-populated in there for that project. Okay. I'm going to come back in here now. So let's go back to our data. So we just went out and did an inspection on on one of these projects. It's showing up as green, meaning it's passing. We got some information on it. We can see when the next inspection is due. We can click on here and take a look at the history. We can see all the history of those inspections. Sorry. Come over to list here. We're going to go to our to-do list, and so we were out in the field. We saw some issues. We clicked enforcement action is due. Now back at the office here, you're coming to your to-do list. You're seeing that enforcement action is due. We need to issue a notice. So you're going to click on here. It's going to give you a little window which pops up. You can put an ID for that enforcement action, the staff, what type of action it's going to be. These are generally escalating actions from corrective notice, notice of violation, violation with a fine, a stop work order, and ultimately a referral to the water board. You can associate which inspections are tied to that correction action. You may have had a few inspection reports that keep saying the same thing that you want to reference. You put in the date that you're issuing it, the date you want a response, upload your letter here. Once they've signed it and acknowledged it and sent it back, you put the date here, and then hopefully it gets resolved, and you would come and put in a resolution date here, or you would click escalate and bring it to the next level and add another enforcement action. So again, that would show up here, all those enforcement actions for every project. This is for a single project. You'd be able to see all the enforcement actions, all the inspections that have gone on. You can go in and view these inspections in full, make some edits and changes if you need to. And again, all the project information up here. So that is essentially how you as a program manager and inspector are going to be interacting with this module on a daily basis likely. And then when it gets time for annual reporting at the end of the year, come down here. This should hopefully look familiar to you, but this is where you're going to sort of summarize your year's activities. You've got your trash and your runoff and particulate progress here. Other modules with information on how you've done throughout the year. So all this information, of course, gets locked when you're ready to submit your report, and you can submit it as read-only information to the regulators. Clicking on construction here for 2019, you can see a list of all the projects, whether they've been completed or active, public or private, high or no priority, the sum of all the disturbed acres, total inspections, that average site score. So every inspection has an average site score that gets averaged over the course of that project, and then you can look at all those combined and average them. Enforcement actions that were issued and how many of those were resolved. And then again, you can click on any of these and see some more information if you need to. In addition to sort of that summary table, we're taking that average site score and showing it similar to how we're showing program effectiveness for other modules. If you are doing your inspections, if you are working to educate your contractors, the thought is that these site scores are going to go up on average over time. And so this is a way to take the construction data that you're collecting through this and see how your program is doing over time. And you know, directly tie it to the permit on program effectiveness for this section of the permit. We've got different filters here, so you'll be able to sort these scores based on the project phase, if they're active or not. You might want to look at them based on which contractor was on the site, if there were high priority projects or not. There's really sort of countless ways we can view this data and to help inform your program moving forward.